Namaskar everyone and welcome to Desi Talk. So today's topic is very near and dear to my heart. I've been working on this project for a while and I'm really excited to finally get to share it with you. I think it's really an important topic. Hey girl, okay, let me add Yashu. I've been working on this project for a few months now. Hey Yashu.
Hey,
Hey
hey!
girl.
Did you see my comment? I was like, your jacket is so cute.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I was about to get rid of it, so I'm really happy you said that. It's been like sitting in my closet for a full year and I almost donated it and then I was like today I just looked at it and I was like, I feel this energy today, so I'm gonna put it on.
Yes, so
Thanks.
true. And just
So,
sent a pin for you
okay,
as
yes,
well.
let me pin it. So, namaskar everyone again. This is Desi Talk. I'm your host, Srishti Prabha, the managing editor of India Currents, and my co-host is
Hey everyone, it's your girl Happy Yashu here with Desi Talk. So excited for today's topic. I'm so excited. I was like, as me and Shushi were talking about this, I literally was like, "Aw, all the memories."
Oh, that's wonderful. That's exactly the emotion that I want to elicit from everyone else watching. So, this today's topic is very personal to me because it's actually about something I've been working on for the past 6 months. And for the past 6 months, I've been researching the way that the South Asian grocery stores in Santa Clara County contributed to the health of Desis in this community. So it's been like a very stressful, overwhelming project to take on, but I'm really happy. I've hit some hurdles and I've also overcome some. So let's my first article is going to drop tomorrow, so I wanted to actually just talk about it. Yeah, I know. I'm very excited. It's been a lot of work. So finally something's going to be out in the ether of like this all this time I've spent on this project. So let's start from the beginning of where I'm kind of talking about in my article my experience as like a young kid being dragged to the grocery store with my mom. So I'd come out of Kathak class. I did Kathak on Saturdays in Evergreen over here. So I get out of Kathak class, I'd be wearing my Kathak kurta. It's not the cute kurtas, it's my ugly one that I'm wearing for working out. So it's like, I don't look cute. I look like a mess. I didn't take a shower because my Kathak classes were at like 9 in the morning. So I would just like go, I would wake up, get out of bed, put on some clothes and run. So my mom would take me, and then after that, she'd be like, okay, so we have to do some Indian grocery shopping because, Saturdays is the chores day. But I'm like, by the time it's like noon, you're like hungry and I'm tired. And I've also been dancing for the past few hours. I was just like, I'm over this. Like, I want to go home like right now. And you can go to Safeway down the street from me. And my mom would always say, like, obviously I can't do that because I can't get the stuff that I need at the Safeway. I need to get like all these Indian ingredients that I can only get at Kumud Groceries, which was like a little further away, but on the way home. And so I kind of start with this little like vignette because I think it's very emblematic of like our experiences as kids. You know what I mean? Like having to like your parents just drag you there, but then you're like, oh, but at the end I get some samosas. Then I'll go. I can get
Right.
some faluda ice cream, which I know you like too. Then I'll go. So how do you feel about like your childhood growing up and going to the grocery store?
I can relate with the whole like your kurta from dance class. Like it'll be all sweaty. It'll be that old one because you knew it was gonna get all sweaty anyway. Like I can
Exactly.
totally relate to that. But kind of talking about the Indian grocery. So for us, we had initially like the only ones in the DMV area was Patel Brothers, and Patel
Ooh,
Brothers is like everywhere
it's a
now. But like
chain,
back
yeah.
then, right? It was just like that one Patel Brothers. It was like a small one, and just kind of talking about like how things have, I remember that at that time it was the only grocery store for the entire DMV area, and it started off in the side little section of like a slightly bigger like a little complex. So it
Mhm.
wasn't even that big. It's probably the size of my room actually. It was a really small little Patel Brothers. And then like today, of course, they've got multiple
Yeah,
locations
there's
and
the Patel brothers out here, multiple Patel brothers out in the Bay too. So like they
and I
did
will
the whole.
never forget. the smell, as soon as you like, there's this just smell to an Indian grocery store that like, even if you go to like a little like grocery thing in India, you guys know how it has that kind of like smell to it.
Hmm.
That it was that.
It's like a
It was
mixture of like spices and like hot samosas and pakoras and stuff and like random puja stuff. Like it's all of those smells together. I feel like they just combine. But I loved the smell of the grocery store. Like that was one of my favorite smells. And actually, interestingly, like I think our homes like smell like that a lot because my mom's cooking, your mom's cooking, they're making all the stuff with all the haldi and all that. And then it smells. And so my hands would always be stained with yellow. My clothes would always smell, but I didn't really realize it actually until like, I think it might have been, I knew like my food smelled different and stuff, but I remember in middle school, I had a friend and she like hugged me and then she like got like, as she was playing away, she was kind of like, oh yeah, you always smell like spices. And I was like, I had no idea I smelled. Like, I had no idea I had a smell. I was like, oh my God. And then I was like really aware of the fact that I smelled. So I started dousing myself in like lotion, like those Bath and Body Works
right.
lotions that I would get for Christmas. I was like, all right, I got to put the sweet pea on me. Like,
Right. We got a comment here from Malhotra K51. Haha, we all need to read The Gold Diggers by Sanjana Satyan. She writes about her experiences growing up in Atlanta. Amazing you both are sharing your experiences. Absolutely.
wait,
And this
one
is
second, Malhotra. I just published an article about this book today on India Currents. So this is so relevant. Follow India Currents if you don't, because we actually just covered her book. Yeah, I think I'm like, you're seeing the Indian Americans. Actually, I think she talks about being in a grocery store, which is probably why he brought it up. And that's, yeah, it's so important to like archive these memories that you and I have because these are things that if we don't like actively think about, actively preserve, those things will be gone. And I think that's like a big part of my story as well is like, okay, you and I are talking about this and immediately we're connecting even though we're on two different sides of this country. You're in Florida and I'm in California, but both of us fully understand that experience of like going to the grocery store, smelling the foods, getting the samosas, maybe getting a Bollywood DVD back in the day. That was what I was trying to get. And these things are so like they really like they're like archives of like things that we felt and saw and connected to as young people, but also how they like I don't know if it's just you, but I always feel like it kind of gives me a taste of like India too, because you can talk in Hindi. For me, talking Hindi, I know for you is probably Telugu. Like I can like chat up the bhaiya or the didi or the behen or whoever is there. Like the one at Trinitra, Dimple Ben is always there, and I always hang out with her. Like she recognizes me, you know. So it's like there's this feeling of like almost like the bazaar, like going to the bazaar and so when we don't think about it actively though, like the preservation of these grocery stores, like one, I think you made a really good point, by the way, of like you had to go so far to get your groceries when you were younger. Same, right? Like it wasn't like these grocery stores always existed. There weren't so many of them. They were like really few and far between.
And even if you think like generationally, like when my dad first came to America, like first, and then like at the time he had kind of his seniors who had come, back then there was two groceries, one in New York, one in Chicago. So if you had to order groceries, you actually had to like call on the phone and then tell the guy, I want, like 5 pound tur dal packet, Lakshmi brand. I want, like this particular, like atta or whatever, right? And then they would ship it to you in a box. And this is how people used to do their groceries, like back before, like my parent, like a little bit before my parents' generation, or probably the first, few communities, right? And so then, we develop a little bit more into like having one at least in the vicinity, right? Like the DMV, that's DC, Maryland, and Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
All had like one store that was located in Maryland, but like all the way on the other side of Maryland. Surprisingly, not surprisingly, or maybe surprising, I don't know, but like near the Hindu temple, Shiva Vishnu temple. And so you'll start to see like communities building
Yep.
around like
The
Indian
grocery
grocery.
store. Yes. Let's talk about that, the proliferation of these businesses because of the grocery store. Yes, because think about, what does a religious institution need? They need incense, they need like coconut water, they need milk, they need all these things that they are using. Like, I can't even think of half this. They need like rui and ghee and like all these things that you need to go to the temple.
And
And
even not even like religious, right? Like taking one step back, right? It's like I feel like our Indian groceries were the marker of like this is where kind of like Desi communities established. So like when
mhm,
my father moved to the DMV area, he could have lived anywhere. Like DMV is huge. But he chose to live near the Indian grocery store because that would be the most convenient because at the end of the day, the necessity to eat and the food that you know is this
yeah.
Indian food or this Desi
Yeah,
food.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
not even about the religious things. It's about like your community starts to build around your
Around
source
it.
of food.
Yes. And I
I
think
like
the
if you
food
look at
is
anything.
like, I think it also kind of that touches on how important food is to culture. Because I think like, why was that like the first thing that, like you're like, it's that's the marker of these other businesses that begin to form because you're like, okay, the first thing, food is a necessity. And our necessity is the food of our culture because that is what we can digest dietarily, and also it's what we should be eating because that's
It's
there's
what we know.
generations. Yeah, it's what we know, our body knows, generations of knowledge have been passed down to like give us that food. That'll be my second article. Keep an eye out for what it is that the dietary knowledge gives you. But I think what you're saying is so important is that like these businesses marked the establishment of other they like of the fact that Desi's existed, and then they kind of congregated there and allowed for these other businesses to establish as well. And yeah, I think
I would love to know. I would love to see the history, if possible, Srishti, of like what was first, Indian grocery, okay? What came after that? Was it restaurants? And then was it temples? Like I would love to know this because like if I think about some of these key places like Edison, New Jersey, y'all know that's like Desiville, right? And like Edison, New Jersey, you have Bridgewater Temple right there, right? Bridgewater Temple, so you have this this temple going on, but then it's also like Desi Food Nation, like it's all restaurants of all different types.
Mhm.
Long Island, right? If you go to New Hyde Park and Floral Park, that's like Punjab right there, right? It's like all just like Punjabi restaurants. The whole community is like Punjab. You'll just like literally see people in their cars and like whatever, like just everyone's listening to like Punjabi music, and it's such a rich community there,
Mhm.
right? And so like I just think about like all these like different pockets of communities that build. I wonder what the chronological order of like establishments is.
I think, like you said, the food is definitely first, and after that, I don't think there really is a chronological order because a lot of these things are, like I said, sourcing items. They're creating a pipeline, right? Like if the ethnic grocery store can exist, if a Desi grocery store can exist, there is a pipeline for that food getting there, right? The items getting there. Now, other people can either use that pipeline or use the store. I think that's a big thing to think about. And then also resources, right? Like it's easy to like open, like you said, these shops used to be small, and I still think like in New York and stuff they're not like huge, but I think we live in like bigger spaces where they've now expanded a lot more, but like they were small. They would be like a small little like storefront
in
probably.
in New York. Like for example, and a lot of people can relate to these stories because I know y'all go visit New York and stuff. But if you go to Journal Square, right, and you walk into like one of the Indian stores, and then there's that little shady staircase, it's like off to the side where you have these swathed white boxes that have just like extra surplus of like atta and whatever, right? But you go up those stairs, and like that's where they have the little mandir. It's like up the stairs in this like little like building in Journal Square. And so just memories like that, New York and everything, which were kind of like the first couple of communities to really have these grocery
Mhm.
stores and systems, is just like it oh my goodness, it's just down memory lane.
Wow, that's like such a vivid and evocative memory. I love that you really like described kind of what it was like to like go, and then there's the yeah, the swab boxes. I mean, like think about people say you go to a Safeway and you'll see like one type of every rice, right? Like you'll see like one type
Mhm.
of white rice, one type of wheat rice, maybe a jasmine rice, whatever. You go to the Indian grocery store, you have 10 to 15 pound bags of the same kind of rice from different places, and then also multiple different kinds of rice. So there's like like 10 bags of all these different kinds of
And
each
aunties
thing.
be fighting. Aunties be fighting. Like, oh, you buy Lakshmi brand? Have you ever tried Deep? Like, Deep is the best. Today, oh my gosh,
It happened
today,
today.
literally me and my friend, and then my like two other friends, right? We're fighting as to which brand has the best garam masala. And I'm sitting here like, listen, yo, like, okay, I don't know about Sean. Okay, I'm not sure about if Sean is doing the job. But I definitely feel like, like MDH, they got potential. And then my friend's like, well, have you tried MTR? And I'm like, yes, MTR is there too. But like, I feel like MDH is, and then this other person's like coming in there, have you ever tried Mother's? Like, Mother's is the mother of spices.
I
Like,
love Mother's pickles. I will say the mango pickle. Oh, the Mother's mango pickle is good.
oh
Okay,
my God.
that's the thing. Is like you go in there and you'll be overwhelmed. And one of the things is like there is something in every corner, like everywhere. The one I described this grocery store called Como Spice House in my story, where like even behind the register, like all the way to the top, there's stuff. There's more stuff. I'm like, there's stuff there's stuff on the right, there's stuff on the left, there's stuff in the back, there's stuff on every aisle, but then there's also stuff behind the counter. I'm like, there's
Even
too
the
much.
bathroom. Have you ever been to the bathroom at an
No,
Indian store? You,
no. Oh my God, tell
my
me about that.
Like we
What?
weren't doing any food stuff, but the Lux soap and the Medimix soaps and like all of
Oh,
like the for example the shampoo the all of like the Indian body
yeah,
products, like they
yeah.
would have them in those like in their bulk containers, but sometimes they wouldn't have any space that they
Oh,
would
so
just
they
like
put it in the
scoop it up.
bathroom?
Yes, they
Oh,
would put it in the bathroom. What's also something interesting? Do you ever remember like for produce?
hmm.
Like how we used to pick, like for example, bhindi, and like a lot of times, like Desi moms would
You have
like
to go
chop.
like this, chop the top
Yeah,
off. Yeah, you do have to. You have to check, and then also like if it's too hard, then it's too mature and you can't use it. So you have to check for how
right.
soft. They're just touching everything. I'm like, this is COVID central. We're all touching the bindi today.
Right. And like just things like that. And even like talking about like, like even pani puri, remember? Like they would always have the pani puris that they sell in the
The
Ziplocs near the register. They're not the ones that are like in the deep
deep
boxes.
boxes, yeah.
They're the ones like that guy has, and those are the ones which were like the freshest. I remember in my Desi store, uncle and auntie were owning it, and auntie used to make dabeli, and she would make them, and she would bring like a whole tray. And so I would tell my mom, like my mom would always buy my dad one samosa, and then I would be like, Mom, I really want a dabeli, and auntie would be like, well, uncle would be like, eat hot, only hot, okay. And he's like, wait, I will microwave for you. And then he would like go to the back where they had this little microwave. He would microwave that belly and bring it to me. And it would be the most delicious thing. Oh, my mouth is drooling just talking about it.
That's so cute. So can you clarify dabeli? Is that a jalebi? Am I making the right? No, what is a dabeli?
Dabeli is kind of like vada pav.
Hmm.
So it's like a bun, and then instead of like a patty, it's just more like aloo
Okay.
stuffing that they put in, and then they'll put this like garlic ginger powder. Can you hear me?
Technical difficulties. Yeah, I don't know what just happened. Sorry.
Okay,
So yeah,
you're back.
dabeli. Yeah, tell me about the dabeli. What is the dabeli?
So dabeli, it's like a little sandwich bun, and then they'll put like aloo, not a patty, like not like a tikka, but it's just more tiki rather. It's more like just like mashed potato,
It's pav
and then they'll put
bhaji.
pomegranate seeds.
It's pav bhaji, right? Dabeli is like a pav bhaji.
No, no, no. Because
Oh,
this is more street, like pav bhaji is street food too. Pav
yeah.
bhaji is more liquidy, and you eat it, you like tear off, and then you eat pav bhaji like that. But dabeli is like it's more like it's like the closest thing to it is vada pav. It's just the vada pav is like usually like deep fried or whatever. here it's just like the potatoes put in there, pomegranate seeds, and then like
Wow.
garlic chili powder, and you
That
make it
sounds
into a
so
sandwich, and then you just like
good.
eat it.
Oh my God,
It's
that is making my mouth water too. That's delicious. And I want to note that,
so
look at
good.
this. We don't all know everything because I feel like some foods are so specific to certain regions of India that like you don't always know. Like I don't know. I didn't know what a dabeli is. I've never had that before, but we have like
I think it's Punjabi. I should actually like look it up, like dal Bailey. But if you haven't tried it, you definitely need to try it. Yeah. So when you even see the picture, it looks very similar to like vada pav.
mm,
But it's more. I guess the signature is the pomegranate seeds that get in there. That
okay.
just elevate the taste to like a whole nother level.
Okay. That sounds delicious. And I feel like if we ever meet, we have to try to like make that recreate it or something. Um,
Yes, and if anyone in our audience knows Dabeli, yo, listen, drop it in the comments. We need to enlighten Srishti up here with Dabeli. It is the best, okay?
yeah, I definitely want to know more about it. So, okay, so Daveli was something you got. I'm trying to think of like the things that I could get at the grocery store, like fresh, were always like chaat and like samosas, pakoras, varas, like those little like spring roll, Indian spring roll things. Yeah, they
Wow.
had like a lot of random like veggie puffs and stuff, all the like fried goods, the things that are
That's a
fried.
lot more than we had. We had like the Dabeli was something that came much later. This was after like the other bigger Patel Brothers was established. But when we had like the first little tiny one, it was just samosa. That's all you can get.
Yeah,
Now
I mean
I
that's
feel
the
like it's
same. Now
right.
there's a lot of variety. Now you can get a lot of things. But I would it's funny because a lot of these stores, at least over here, what they did was they were small and then they kept buying like different like like buy like the
Right.
place next door and then break that wall down and then expand so it still kind of feels like the same place kind of because like even though it's like newer and nicer, it's still like the same place but with an expanded area. I
Right.
feel like you know what I mean? Like it's not like a totally new place where some of them did relocate and like become different, but like at least the one I'm thinking about is the Kumud that became Trinetra. That place is like the same. I've been going there for 20 years. It's exactly the same except for they just added this entire room, like another section. So it's bigger, but like it feels the same. I still feel like I remember going there and like being like bored. Now I'm like,
I feel like the
ooh,
Indian grocery store was never, for me at least, like never boring because it would just be so, I would just remember India so much. Like
hmm
I remember, you know what my treat would be that my mom would buy me, like my treat would be a Desi soap. Like till
what?
this day, my mom buys Mysore sandalwood, the soap bar, and like
hmm
for me, like if I'm ever like in the mode, I'll just be like, I think I'm just gonna go buy a Medi Mix real quick. Like, like it's so nostalgic and it reminds me of just like showers and like, taking a shower in
Yeah.
India and like how I used to love how Lux smelled and like just like recreating those moments for
You
myself.
you like showering in India when there's Dunky only has one time where it gets hot water, even water, and then you have to get it hot, and then you take the shower and you're putting the jug over your head. I'm like, that was stressful. I was like, there's not enough hot water. I didn't do it in time.
Listen, y'all have that. Me growing up until this day, my aunt boils the water on the stove
Oh no,
and then
we
she
had that at
brings it.
first. But it's still like you have to like mix it with the cold water and then hope you have enough to take a shower. I'm just like,
Yo,
I'm
listen, Indian shampoo comes in like the little packets. That was stressful because like you have to open it, and like if you couldn't open it, there would be like one little blade that would be hanging from like the window sill because there's a window in the bathroom, that's like right there so the neighbors can see you while he's like pulling out his scooter or whatever, and
hmm
like there would be this one blade, and you have to like maneuver yourself to like use that blade with slippery hands because you're wet and you're taking a shower and like cut this packet open and squeeze out this
and you're
shampoo.
doing it and you're doing it fully cold because the water is not running on you. You're waiting to put the jug of water on yourself as you also put the shampoo in your head. I was like, this is really stressful. The shower is stressful.
Uh,
But I don't know.
oh my
I
gosh, this
I
has got
still
to be one of my most favorite episodes, Srishti. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. If any of you who's watching today can relate to your Desi grocery experiences, be sure to drop your favorite memory in the chat below, because we are really just, oh my gosh, I feel
we
like I'm
went we
reliving
went a
every
different way.
moment.
Yeah, we really went down a different memory lane. But I think that's the point, is like going in there, seeing the items, smelling the things, picking something up. It like reminds you of stuff, and sometimes that jogs your memory. It makes you have a conversation, whatever. Or like you're like, I would get inspired to cook something. I'd be like, oh, I forgot I really liked that thing I had. Like okay, so I had like these tandoori momos that were incredible last like 2 or 3 times ago when I went to India. So I was like, oh, maybe I can find the spices to like make these tandoori momos that I've been craving for like 3 years. So it's things like that. And I want to like, okay, so I want to talk about like the last portion of my article before we sign off, where so I did this large scale survey of Desi's kind of in the US, but a lot of them ended up being in California and specifically the Bay Area, on like why they went to the Desi grocery store and why it mattered to them. And what I kind of found was that a lot of the people that were older, the people going to the grocery store, they were like, I'm not going for any other reason for the most part, other than the fact that it's nearby, or like I can get these groceries that I want, right? They just be like, oh, they have fresh vegetables. They're cheap. They're nearby. That's a lot of the responses I got were that. But I was specifically asking, like, what is the significance of the Desi grocery store to you? And I was getting these responses that were pretty like, I don't want to say they weren't introspective, but they were just like very superficial responses to the question. And so so my analysis found that 69% of people responding to the survey didn't really think that deeply about these grocery stores. And and I want to also mention, I did these in-person surveys. So like I didn't see a lot of young people going to the grocery store. Actually, I only found one in my survey of like 45 people. Only one was a girl under 30 and two were children under 15. So only one young person. So I was like, that is also surprising. So there's really not, I don't know, when are these people going? What times are they going? Are they going frequently? Are they going infrequently? And I want to note that I'm part of the problem. I'm not saying that I'm not, because I definitely myself don't go to the Indian grocery store as much. I go to Trader Joe's sometimes over going to the Indian grocery store, right? Like I'll make that decision myself.
And I think this is really interesting, because I was gonna say, as a kid, I would go with my parents, right? But it wasn't until like I moved here to Florida, I'm finally independent for the first time, and the first grocery store I went to was the Indian grocery store. And it's because I realized in my household, I mean Yashu, me, I cook Indian food.
Yeah. I think you're an
like,
anomaly though. I think from what I also, I want to say that I think when you're further away from your family, that also instigates like, oh, I really want to eat that food my mom used to cook. Like I'll go to the grocery store and make that. But the problem is in the Bay Area, a lot of these people around my age and your age are close enough to home that they can either go home and their parents are making that food. So they're not actually making that food themselves. I think that's a big thing. Or they live at home. And
that's what I was going to say. I think not a lot of people actually cook Desi food who are ABCDs, especially, right? And then I think they're also either very hesitant to cook it, right? Because they don't know how to, or they're like, I don't want to go to the Indian store because I don't want to buy the sambar because that's not going to be like my mom's sambar. So like, what's the point? I hear this a lot. So for me, like, for example, my mom, she sends me idlis. She makes idlis, she freezes them, and then she does like overnight shipping with FedEx. And so she'll send me.
What? I lived in Boston.
Literally, she'll send me like 30 idlis.
Dude, your mom is extra, extra, extra. Read all about it. Like, what the hell? Because my mom never did that. I live so far away. That's really nice. That's really sweet.
And I don't think she even does overnight shipping. I think she just does like the regular shipping. And from like Maryland to Florida, it takes one day. It doesn't take that long. It just takes one day. So for me, my mom freezes them and then like air air seal packet or whatever you call it, and then she'll just box it up, the frozen Italy's, and send it. So by the time it's here, it's actually still cold. It might thaw out a little bit, but it's not spoiled. Like, it's still cold. So I immediately take it and I just put it back in my freezer. And then all I do is, like, I heat it up and I
And
eat
then
it
you
with
would
some
make some
ghee.
sambar and ghee and like
And so it's me, because I'm so busy with
gunpowder.
my schedule. That's when I go to my Indian grocery store, and you guys will see my article soon about my favorite Desi finds, right? And like, I'll buy what I think is a pretty good sambar, considering the fact that my schedule will allow me to cook it, and I really am craving a sambar for this, right? So
Hmm.
it's the best I can do, and it makes me happy, and it reminds me of home.
Hmm.
Period. That's my goal,
Period. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I think there's yeah, I was myself kind of shocked because seeing like, we're talking about it. We have the same feelings about the grocery store, but I'm starting to realize that like I think yeah, like you said, it takes time. People, it's not going to be the same as your mom's, whatever. There's all these external reasons to not go and do it and make desi food, and that's pretty unfortunate because we are like we have to sustain these
Losing
grocery
culture.
stores. Yeah, we're losing our culture. If our parents weren't around, that's ancestral knowledge that we fully lose by not actually going to the grocery store. And I really want to emphasize this point that we need to start thinking about it because preservation of culture is so active. And this idea was triggered actually when I went on vacation to Hawaii, and I went to Kauai, and there was like one little area with like it was like a cultural spot where like they were showing how people used to, they had like the remnants of like a home or something, like
Hmm.
it was like a small home, like village with like a little fish pond and all that, and they had the remnants, and that was it. And written like underneath it was like this guy who excavated it and like documented it and talked about it, and he was like he kept pushing for the preservation of these things. He was like, we need to like rebuild it, we need to talk about it, we need to preserve, sorry, the Hawaiian culture and our native culture because it's being overrun by these other communities. And unfortunately, nobody listened, and it actually ended up being that that's the only little spot with like any sort of cultural preservation in that area. So I think like, like you were saying one thing where it's like, I don't even have access to it. So we need to really like really, really cherish what we have. And here I'm saying we do have access, and it's like we said, it's a health marker. The fact that we have it is so important, but we can lose it just as easily. They're fragile. They're not
Right.
things that won't go away because they're businesses and they rely on people going there. So we need to actively start thinking about how do we start to preserve these things in our communities that, provide these cultural health markers and act as cultural hubs, right? So,
And I think what's also just like a point here is I think it's important to say that like a lot of our, I feel Indian grocery stores or Desi grocery stores are quite alive and running also because of like our immigrant community.
mhm.
Like I like live with roommates, right, who are all from India, and so for them food is not like they're not okay with eating like even between me and my roommates. I eat rice a lot more than I eat roti because I am from Andhra Pradesh, which is like rice nation. And
Mhm.
like my roommate who's from Maharashtra prefers roti and really doesn't care for rice.
Mhm.
So right then and there you're seeing this like difference in like what you're able to eat and not able to eat. And at the end of the day, like Indian grocery is what sustains you. Like we cannot survive on like just like an American diet, a
Mhm.
typical American diet, for example, every day. And I think Indian cuisine is so beautiful in that it's so versatile that
Yeah.
you're not limited to the food choices that you have. Like today, I bought yogurt, and it was really sour yogurt, and
Yum.
and my friend was like, me. We looked at each other at the same time, and we're like, Cuddy, like literally, we like look at each other. We're like, that's what we're about to make with this, like.
Oh, that's
And I
awesome.
think right, and I think our immigrant community really helps with that. I know, like just a little quick story with my brother. He was like the summers here in Florida are super hot, and he's like, oh dang, like I was telling him, oh when I went to India, I remember like we went to like Vrindavan, and it was so hot, but the chas was like, oh, like the chas and lassi just made everything just feel so much better. And he's like, you know what the best chas is? And I'm like, what? And he's like, Amul. Amul's chas is the best. Like, that's the one I grew up
Oh.
on growing up as a kid. And
Mm-hmm.
so my Indian grocery store here doesn't have Amul chas. Anyway, one day we took a trip to Jacksonville and we were like, there they have a really big Patel Brothers. And we're like, okay, well, let's just go buy groceries here since we're, like, and we might find things that we don't get at the one here in Gainesville. So we go in there and the first thing he sees sitting on the shelf
The
is
Amul chas.
Amul's chas. And he literally buys like 6, right? And he's like, I need this. This is what I grew up on. Like, this is something that I like really need, you know? And like just little things like pudin harap, Borolin. Remember, like even the medicines. Like I know my roommates. I'm like, hey, do you want to put some Neosporin on it? They're like, no, I put Borolin on it. I'm like, hey, you want to put some Bengay on that, muscle? I put Move on it. Like, okay, like use your Desi way, okay.
Yeah, there's always a Desi like alternative to everything, right? I definitely agree with that. I mean, Dettol soap, that was the soap everywhere. I always think of Dettol when I think of soap, and then I have this very had a very pungent smell that I cannot forget for the rest of my life. But that said, okay, I think we've done like everything. We've covered a lot. But the main takeaway, and I want you to take away something because we've talked about so much about the grocery stores. So Desi grocery stores in Santa Clara County are like so diverse, and the Indian diaspora, the South Asian diaspora is so diverse. Between even you and me, there is so much diversity that I don't know everything that you talk about, and you probably don't know everything that I would. Actually, you might because you seem like you know a lot more for some reason sometimes. But
I don't like because your background, the food you grew up with, is so different from the food that I grew up with.
when I say litti, you know litti, right? You know what litti is?
Actually, I don't.
Oh, cool. Okay, so we do have these. I was like, I bet you I'm gonna tell her this. You're like, yeah, I know what that is. So I'm Bihari, and that is the most Bihari thing you can get is a litti, and a litti is like this, like it's a sattu, which is this type of it's based in. Oh my God, I'm trying to think of like the English word. I don't know it. It's a type
Besan,
of
chickpea flour.
chickpea flour, but it's a differently processed chickpea flour. Thank you. So sattu is high in protein, and specifically in Bihar, they'll use this and they'll put it in this like dough, and it's like a ball, and then you put it on in the like you roast it in a fire, like in the chulha with like just like in like a I don't know, like anything, right?
You're
like
using all these
paper.
Hindi terms that I don't even know what a chuha is.
Chulha, like a open fire.
Oh,
Right?
okay,
Like an
okay.
open fire, like yeah,
Like a
you're right.
fire.
I'm trying to think of like a fire, but it's not like a fire, like an exposed fire. It's like
Like a
almost like
coal?
like a, it's a chulha. It's like it's like a
I'm
mound
just
with
Google
like
it.
I want to explain things and I don't know the words.
Okay,
It's
so
like
it's like a little coal thingy.
yeah, but it's like almost like a oven, right? Because it's like
Oh,
kind
I
of
see.
like
It's like a little like cement thing, and then there's
yeah.
like little fire coming from it on the bottom.
Yeah, and then you put like in like a leaf or something, you put the thing in it and you like let it
Mhm.
like coal like cook, right? And
Mhm.
then you eat it with like this eggplant, like so a bangan mush thing, like an eggplant bharta, a bangan bharta, and
Mhm.
then you eat it with some chutneys, like an achar and some chutneys. They're very specific to littis specifically. And
Litti? Is that how you say it?
Litti, Litti. I was so annoying when we're gonna get lit. I would when that became a thing. I'd be like, oh, we're gonna get litty, and they were like, you're so stupid. Literally, my cousins stopped talking to me. They were like, can you not do that? So yeah, this is like a very specific thing in Bihar to you make things out of sattu. Like sattu is that specific way of chicken.
Interesting.
So
You know what would be interesting, Srishti? And I get all these article ideas like as we talk. I noticed that there's a lot of similarities yet differences between like when I see these litti things that you're looking at, it's reminding me of this other like very specific Andhra dish, which is very specific to this very Tamil Nadu dish, but they're not the same.
mhm.
Called like paniyaram. So like I feel like I would like to do research as to like how this is made, how that is made, and like maybe even do like a comparison between like
Yeah.
similar dishes that probably originated with the same concept, but like somewhere in between, like diversified. Today I was talking to a friend who's Bengali, and he was telling me, oh,
Italy. That's like our version of pita or something like that. He was calling it pita or something.
Yeah.
He was calling it something.
There's so there's
And I
also
was just
there's also so many versions of pani puri. Like there's golgappa, pani puri, and today I learned Bangladeshis call it fuchka. And there's like a multiple types of different kinds of, I'm sure they spice it different. Every place probably spice it different. But yeah, you're totally right. There's all these dishes that are like adapted to the region and like
right.
they've created different spice profiles. But I want to end this live because we're actually almost an
Sorry,
hour.
sorry, 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 sorry.
No, no, no,
Back to the
no.
lifty.
Back to the lichty. The only reason I brought this up is that so like Biharis are used to digesting sattu, which is like very high in protein and dense and hard to digest. And Keralites are very used to eating fermented foods at high volumes because they've been doing that for so long. That's a lot of their food is fermented. Their rice is fermented. A lot of stuff is fermented. So these things that we're getting at the grocery store are so, so significant and so important to our health that we don't even realize they're just built into our diet or have been. And so we need to be very, again, cognizant of what we're doing, very aware of what foods we're eating. And I think you and I, our conversation might start that because like you're clearly thinking about it, I'm clearly thinking about it, and I think we'll hopefully educate other people. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I hope you read my article, which drops tomorrow. Yeshu is gonna write an article that will also drop, and then I will have two more articles with way more information. So please stay tuned to Desi Talk. Um,
I just don't want to end this. This
yeah,
is such a good conversation. Like, oh my gosh.
yeah, I'm so happy
I
we
thought
did
I'd
it.
keep going on.
I know. Well, we could. Maybe next week talk a little bit more and see what happens. All right, everybody. Thank
Absolutely.
you for
Thank you, everyone.
joining. Bye.